Welcome everyone to Mondays with Michael. So good to be with you. A Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to everyone. We're just 4 days into the 12 days of Christmas, or I guess 5 days into the 12 days of Christmas. And as always, it is great to be with you and extra good to be with you in this holiday season. Apologies for our delayed start today. Had a few technical issues to sort out, but it is done. So we can have a smooth show today. And a warm welcome. So whatever platform you're on, please introduce yourself if you like, and feel free to share anything that you've come across since we were last together or last time you were with us that you would like to share. Could be holiday wishes, anything related to our subjects of natural health and health freedom. For those of you who are new here, I'm Dr. Michael Gaeta. Warm welcome to everyone. And today, with the holiday season and kind of right between Christmas and New Year's, we'll have a briefer show today to maximize time with family and loved ones. But there are a couple of very cool things I wanted to share with you today and have a conversation also about things you're interested in. So this is an offering of the Gaeta Institute. Our motto here is nature first, drugs last, as with our clinic for Chinese and functional medicine. And our subject today, as is every week, is the subjects of natural health and health freedom. This is show number 296. Welcome to 296 for this December 29th of 2025. I really like the Christmas season, so I'm holiday garbed a little longer to celebrate this wonderful time of togetherness and also acknowledging the birth of light into this world, which was exemplified and embodied, uniquely, amazingly, by Jesus back in the day. And he also said, "Follow me," meaning I think we each have a role to play in bringing light into this world. And that's part of what this season means to me as well. If you're on our Zoom link or on our watch page at michaelgaeta.com/watch, you can put in questions. We're appearing now on about 10 different online platforms and pages. And so whatever platform you're on, feel free to please share things you'd like to share with the group live today. Maybe you've come across a natural health or health freedom related article or topic or something that you wanted to share with the group. Don't be shy, just jump right in with that. Part of the fun of these weekly gatherings is the interaction we get to share with each other. And as I said, if you can put your questions on our watch page. And please let me know if you are on our watch page so I know somebody's there and how many people are there. And I'll make sure to copy over the links we have for today to that spot, or certainly in our Zoom chat. Okay. Well, very good. And always good to really look forward to our times each week where we can talk about things that are important related to these subjects of natural health and health freedom. So today I wanted to continue just with some thoughts. This is a common time of the year, which is, kind of a useful, a useful marking point for all of us to really, reflect, review, consider the year that is coming to a close, 2025, and also to give some thought, at least, to the year ahead. I believe it was Socrates who said the unexamined life is not worth living. It's a pretty bold statement. And the idea is, we have this calendar that we sort of live by that gives us an opportunity to reflect on what has gone before, meaning the year in this case, and acknowledge and celebrate and be thankful for all that was good, true, and beautiful that we had in our lives, who we are, the people in our lives, things that have gone well, the many blessings each of us enjoys. If you're in this country, there's a lot to appreciate. Being in the most amazing, extraordinary nation on earth, the most in demand by far place for people to come to. And the blessings of that, we kind of, if you were born in the U.S., you kind of hit the jackpot at birth for being in this amazing place of unparalleled freedom and therefore prosperity. Those two go together. And happiness, those two go together, freedom. And then also for the people in our lives. You know, I've done my best this season, this year, to really acknowledge people who are part of my life, friends, family, and just say thank you. That, you know, I was just just yesterday, I was out with my neighbor, and our dogs were playing together, and right, you were playing together, and this guy was playing with his friend, and I just had a chance to say, hey, you know, I really appreciate you and our friendship, and really see wonderful success for you in the year ahead. He's you know, engaging in some new ventures, and I just wanted to tell him that I appreciated him and who he was, and that I see him successful in these new ventures that are happening for him this year, these two things that he's embarking on. And I said, these are going to be very successful. This is going to bless and help a lot of people. And, you know, I think he appreciated that. And, you know, I think this is something that we have an ability to do for each other. I believe we are blessing machines, so to speak. Not machines in a literal sense, but we're built to extend blessing. We're built to encourage and uplift, and to support and bless each other. And, you know, as a teacher of mine used to say, you only know what you express. And so as we express the qualities of life, of well-being, of vitality, of appreciation, of encouragement, of something of life, as we express in what we say and what we do, our thoughts as well, but most powerfully through our words and actions, as we give expression to these qualities of life, you know, love, compassion, encouragement, appreciation, gratitude, this is what becomes our experience. So 4 days ago, we had Christmas Day. Let's see, 1, 2, yeah. And this year was extra great because I had the kids this year for Christmas. We kind of take turns on that, so it was my year to have them for Christmas, which was awesome. And we had a wonderful day. And part of that was, you know, just offering acknowledgement, appreciation for, you know, for each other, and for the many blessings of life. And I gave them, I gave each of them, they're 17 and 21, and I like to give them books to read. That's important. And so this year I gave them one of my favorite books, and a book I just am reading myself now. I haven't finished it. I just recently started it. But the first book, which I read years ago, and more than once, was Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. And he was an Austrian psychiatrist, created this system of logotherapy, which is the therapy, I guess you'd say, of meaning. And his book is called Man's Search for Meaning. And I'm sure many of you have read it. If you haven't, highly recommended. He survived not 1 but 4 concentration camps in World War II, and got to the essential meaning of life. And one thing he did was he saw so many of his friends die and he saw some survive, that he was able to identify as a trained psychologist or psychiatrist. He was able to identify, let me give you a link here in the chat. Let me know if you're on our watch page. Just say a quick hello. Here's the link to the book. And it really, I thought it was, honestly, it was a great Christmas present for the kids. I mean, it's intense because he's talking about actual events of World War II, which is, extraordinarily brutal and horrifying, and just, unspeakable horrors visited upon a lot of people, millions, or some massive number of people. And so he identified, and my son just started reading the book, and I wanted to give him a preview. He's like, "What's this about?" And I had mentioned the book to him before, and I said, well, he identified common characteristics of those who survived. And my son said, "Wow," so he immediately got more motivated to spend time with this book. And it says over 16 million copies sold, one of the best-selling books in history. And so I said, Frankl saw what was common to the folks who survived the camps, and it had to do with using your horrifying circumstances to do what you could do, even if it was very modest, to help someone else on their way. He saw starving people who were given a little piece of bread, who would break it in half and give that half, and that was all they had to eat for the day, to someone else who was even in worse shape. And he said the folks who used their existence, their lives, to bless and benefit others were able to find hope and able to find something inside that allowed them to continue, which had to do with some meaning or purpose for their lives. So this evolved into what he developed after the war into logotherapy, which is this this approach to, I guess, psychotherapeutic treatment, which had to do with finding and helping people find their why, their reason, their meaning, their purpose. And this principle has really, spread and been kind of amplified and reconsidered by many, not most recently, but in the last 10 or 15 years by Simon Sinek, the New York City, last I checked, living where he lives where I grew up in New York City. He's British originally, his book Start With Why is kind of an expression of what Frankl wrote about back then. He had kind of written the book and then took it with him to when he was taken to a camp, and then it was taken from him along with everything else. So everything external was taken away, like everything, but what could not be taken away in that horrific circumstance was a person's internal state. And this was one of the themes of the book and of his experience, was how our circumstances do not determine our experience. And most dramatically, as dramatically as could possibly ever be told in Frankl's, Viktor Frankl's experience. I mean, he lived it in a way that, thankfully, most of us don't have to learn that way. Well, we can learn that same essential lesson. And I'm talking about this today because from a clinical perspective, and I've been seeing this trend, in recent decades, and especially the last 10 years in practice. This is, I'm in my 36th year of practice now. And this, and we're seeing this in the literature, we're seeing this in, you know, commentaries and editorials and medical journals and studies on the subject, and it's starting to come into the mass consciousness that the biggest category of illness these days, from one perspective, I mean, you can slice and dice it in a number of ways. You could say everything is related to nutrition, everything is related to this or that, but one perspective is the diseases of despair or isolation. And the despair part comes, and Frankl would, say it in this way: we're diseases of lack of meaning or purpose or reason or why. Having something larger than oneself and other than oneself to devote oneself to. For example, I had a new patient come in one day. She was a 64-year-old female. This was many years ago in New York, where I grew up, for my first 40 years of life in New York City, in Queens. And I gave my last seminar for Standard Process 12 months ago in January, completing 25 years of speaking for them, which is a wonderful thing. Very thankful for that. And the host said, "Well, how should I introduce you?" And I, gave them something to read if they wanted to. And I said, "Or you can just say the Italian guy from Queens." And he did a little bit of both. He said, "Well, here's his, a little bit about him, and he's also," or you can just say he's the Italian guy from Queens. Anyway, so this patient came in, 64-year-old female, diagnosed with colon cancer, but not right away. This is an interesting thing for the practitioners listening. This was a very instructive case for me. And we're going back now, let's see, this would have been 25 years. Actually, a little more, probably 28 years ago, this patient came in, maybe 26, 27, and she had chronic diarrhea for months. I'm like, months of diarrhea? She said, "Yeah, I've been to the doctor, and, really don't like going to doctors." And he didn't have much to say. He just said, "Well, let's see what happens. Here's some, drugs to stop the diarrhea." She didn't go too deeply on the medical side. She just did a quick visit or something. Didn't really follow up properly. So anyway, I said, "Look, usually, the most common cause of diarrhea is infection worldwide." And I said, "This is probably a functional problem, or not a structural issue, but an infection or something weak with your digestion, or, in Chinese medicine we talk about dampness or damp heat and things like that." And she looked very pale. I was like, "Yeah, this is not good. She's malnourished." And started looking at her diet. Wasn't too bad. I said, "Look, let's give this a couple of weeks, and I really want you to go see the doctor, your gastroenterologist or internist, again, because it had been a while, months since she had gone for a checkup, and see what's going on. And really get this checked out." She said, "I really don't like going to doctors." I said, "I understand that. The medical system is the leading cause of death. I understand that. The medical system's a very dangerous place to be, except in emergencies and life-saving intervention. I totally get that. And you want to minimize interactions with the medical system. That's part of my job, is to help people stay out of the medical system with the nature first, drugs last philosophy. Western medicine, conventional medicine isn't bad. Drugs aren't bad. They're just overused, and there's a natural solution at least 95, 98% of the time. So anyway, I treated her with acupuncture, light therapy, supplementation, herbal medicine, dietary changes to help her diarrhea, which is real, was every day, and a number of times a day. Came back the next week, no change. Next week, no change. I said, "We're going to give this one more week for 3 weeks." I said, "You really got. I don't want to see my doctor." I don't like doctors. I was like, I get that, but they're not bad. And there's a time and a place for ruling out bad things. And I was thinking, wow, this might be colon cancer. It's unlikely, but I'm a little concerned. Let's get a full workup if this doesn't improve. So next week came by, no improvement. I'm like, yep, time to go see your doctor, your internist, gastroenterologist. You need a full workup, stool tests, maybe some imaging, maybe a colonoscopy, something. She's like, I don't want to do that. I said, it's really responsible to go do that at this point. It hasn't improved at all. I rarely don't succeed in helping people with diarrhea because it's a simple or non-serious cause. More of a functional, not a structural problem. Even if it's just like IBS or something like that. My intuition, my spidey sense, and I want to say this to our practitioners here, trust your intuition. We've been trained, especially in the modern age, with the testing and the imaging and the AI and all of this type of stuff. We've been trained to emphasize testing over intuition, especially in conventional medicine, especially in functional medicine. We're treating the test, not the patient sometimes, and we're, not even, really paying attention to what our intuition is saying. And worst is when we do have a feeling about something, we'll sometimes discount it. Well, I have a feeling what's going on might be this, but we don't have a test that says that, so I'm going to put that aside until we do more tests. And that's a very tragic thing, because a practitioner's intuition is one of our most important tools or ways of helping people. For example, one of my wonderful teachers, Lonnie Jarrett, I did a 2-year postgraduate program with him after acupuncture school. Some years there after acupuncture school. It was a wonderful experience. I'm still friends with classmates I went through that program with in Massachusetts. And he said the highest form of diagnosis is to look and know. To look and know. Instant acknowledgement, realization, flash of realization, flash of understanding. You just know. You look at the patient, boom. It appears in consciousness what their situation is, what their pattern is, what the issue is, whatever system you practice. And then he said you can backfill, to satisfy the mind with whatever diagnostics you do. But when you look at a patient and just know, that is, not just in Chinese medicine, that is the highest form of diagnosis. Even before you check the pulses, palpate, look at the tongue, look at the labs, all the things we might do. And that kind of stuck with me. I learned that from him 25 years ago. And I haven't forgotten that. Trust your intuition. Trust your sensings about things. And that goes with relationships too. I've had a number of situations over the years where I just felt like something was off in a relationship. And I said something about it. Hey, are we okay? How are we doing? And almost every time I'm like, yeah, there's something up. I just haven't wanted to say anything about it. And this gets me to another thing I wanted to mention today, which was beyond the clinical, relationally, it's rarely what gets said that messes up relationships. And I've learned this very much the hard way. It's rarely what gets said that injures relationships. It's what doesn't get said that messes up relationships. And I've made that mistake way more times than I even want to think about, assuming everything was great, often ignoring my intuition because I wanted everything to be great, but it wasn't great, and didn't say anything. And it's what gets unsaid that is a huge problem, and a much bigger issue than what gets said. If you say something, you say the wrong thing, okay, that's not great, but it's way preferable to the thing that stays unsaid, and really not ignoring that. So, and I just came across a meme this past week, since we were last together, that talks about this. I'm going to put this on the screen. And here it is. Yes, let me download this. This is a very interesting thing. It was kind of just one of these history pages. So this is King Louis the 15th. I had to make sure my kids, because they've been dumbing down our kids. We'll get to the diarrhea patient. I got some tangents here going here. This Dr. Hinders, one of our wonderful local chiropractors. I'm getting there. So here's the meme. This is just this past week. Stabbed at Versailles, King Louis XV thought he was dying. In a panic, he confessed decades of affairs to his wife and begged forgiveness. The wound was actually shallow and he recovered in days. So he realized, as he thought he was dying, that there was a lot that was unsaid. And he didn't want to die with all this unsaid stuff to his wife. In this case, just acknowledging, hey, look, I screwed up, like a lot. And I got to come clean. Here on my deathbed, he thought, I gotta come clean. So he did. The meme is short, so it doesn't go into like how did she respond. I don't really recall the rest of I don't know the rest of the story. But anyway, so he realized there was stuff that was unsaid, and he kind of came clean before he died. So he thought. Thankfully, I guess he recovered, and hopefully. I'd love to, if somebody knows the rest of this story, I'd love to know how this went afterwards. I'm assuming this is true, I don't know. But assuming it's true, I'm really curious to see if we know how their relationship went after this. I'm really curious about that. But anyway, so back to this patient. I said, it's really time to go to the doctor. And she was just fighting me on it. She's like, I don't like going to doctors. Like, I get it, but there's a time and a place. It's not a bad thing sometimes, when I was cycling in New Hampshire, I was an avid cyclist many years ago, and fell and broke my shoulder in 3 places. I needed an emergency room. Other emergencies like that. Even antibiotics, 20 years ago, I needed to take antibiotics for what appeared to be a life-threatening infection. And it was actually a life-threatening infection. So there's a time and a place, and I said, this is the time and this is the place. And so, the next week, same thing. I don't like going to doctors. Like, I get it, but it's time. You're not improving. And this really doesn't happen that often. So my friend, I was practicing in his office in Long Island. I was like, look, I need your help on this, because I sent her to see him. He's a functional medicine chiropractor. He's like, I don't have a good feeling about this. Like, neither do I. So we basically said, look, next visit, we're basically going to, escort her into the car and take her to her doctor. Because we both had a bad feeling about this. So we had resolved we were going to make sure she got checked out on the conventional medicine side, because she was just fighting us week after week. Didn't want to do it. And maybe it was because we had resolved to do that. Like, we have to get her checked out. This is a safety thing. We were really concerned. And that visit, She came in. I was like, "Are you getting better?" She said, "No, and I'm ready to see the doctor." I was like, ah, maybe it was because we had that clarity that we were going to like take her to the gastroenterologist like that day. Like, you're not having a visit, we're taking you to your doctor to get checked out. And she had a cancerous tumor the size of a peach in her colon. And she's like, "Thank you for being persistent. I just, have had bad experiences with the medical system." I said, "You're not alone, and it's still important. Tests, emergencies, it's important." She says, "I get it now." And she had colon cancer. So she had a colon resection on a pretty emergency basis, and they, as is always the concern, about recurrence. So she comes back, and I said, she's like, "I really don't want, like I want to make sure this doesn't come back." I said, "Why?" And here's the point I'm getting to. So now she has a cancer diagnosis. Obviously, she's very concerned. And I said, "Why do you want to get better?" I was asking her for her why. I was kind of channeling Viktor Frankl. What's your, like, what do you want to live? She said, "Yes." I said, "Great. Why? Why do you want to get better? Why do you want to beat cancer? Why do you want to prevent a recurrence? Why, what's your reason?" And she thought about, she was kind of questioned, she was like, "Well," she's slightly taken aback by the question, but appreciated it. And she considered it for just a moment. It was just a brief pause. She said, "My granddaughter is 4 years old, and I want to be there for her, be with her while she grows up. I'd love to be at her wedding." And I said, "Great. That is an awesome, awesome, awesome reason." And when I ask patients this, which is, not every patient, but regularly, it never, not even once, that I've been asking this question, why do you want to get better, does it have to do just with them. It always has to do with somebody else. And this is we talked about diseases of despair. That has to do with, in Frankl's perspective, a lack of meaning. And diseases of isolation, which we saw an explosion of with the ridiculous, nonsensical COVID lockdown, distancing, social isolation measures, which was part of the PSYOP, psychological operation. People are more easily manipulated when they are not together, when they're isolated and alone, and the only thing they're interacting with is state propaganda, which is what we saw. They're much more easily manipulated. Anyway, so that's the connection part, is diseases of isolation, the solution is connection. Diseases of despair, the solution is meaning and purpose. And this is a good, a great built-in on the calendar time of year to do that. Anyway, so she had a good reason to live that she identified, why she wanted to get better. Because, I've had a cancer patient, I've treated tons of cancer patients over the years who want a supportive approach, not just kill the disease approach, and, cut it out, remove it, drug it, nuke it. They want a restorative, supportive, preventative, root cause resolution approach. So, and it's happened, maybe just once, I'm thinking, to my memory, which is pretty good, that one patient said, "I'm 80-something, I'm kind of tired, and I don't think I want to take this on. And I was like, okay, let's optimize your quality of life. But every other case, cancer patients who came in, or who they had a reason to get better, and it almost always had to do with those they cared about. And so anyway, happy ending to this story. I worked with this patient for years in New York, and she did really well. And I was asking her to change her diet. Her diet was not great at all. So I like to start with a 7-day food diary. It was a lot of processed, refined, often fast food, sugary, chemicalized, not great, standard American diet food. So we had a lot of work to do there, and I was asking her to make some pretty big changes. And, I would remind her of why she was going to not eat cake every day and not drink Diet Coke every day. And she didn't like it, but she did it. And because she knew who she was doing it for, was for her granddaughter. And also, she had a personal benefit. She wanted to be there while her granddaughter grew up, but she also knew how precious it is for children to be around their grandparents. And that was a wonderful thing. So happy to say, for the years that she was with me in the Huntington, Long Island office, that she was no longer pale and kind of very depleted, what we would say blood deficient, in Chinese medicine, Qi deficient. She was stronger, more robust. She had good color. Her energy was dramatically improved. She had more stamina. Her quality of life was much better. And that better quality of life made her quantity of time and quality of time with her granddaughter, who thankfully lived nearby, that much better. She was able to enjoy that time with her. So, when I asked her to take a bunch of supplements, make the diet changes, start exercising, lay off the packaged and processed and fast foods, start eating better foods, drinking wheatgrass juice, all these things that, took significant effort, I had to remind her occasionally, not often, because she kind of got it, of why she was doing it. And I believe it was Nietzsche who said, I'm paraphrasing, if you have a strong enough why, you'll do the what or the how, right? Because in holistic healthcare, this is lifestyle medicine. And so we're asking people to change their lifestyle, which is a very difficult thing. My former brother-in-law, who I really miss, he was just an amazing guy, is a holistic radiologist, one of the few in the world who practiced an integrative approach to radiology. And he and his physician friends and his medical group put together a study with patients with metabolic syndrome, so diabetes, insulin resistance, central obesity, hypertension, cardiovascular disease, of how they did with kind of holistic lifestyle changes, basically diet and exercise and some mind-body stress management. And he was really disappointed that people did not, they couldn't finish the study because there weren't enough patients who were willing to change their diet and their lifestyle to a more holistic approach. And he was really sad. They basically say, can't you just give me a pill? And he basically said, well, I could, but that's not what's causing your problem. You don't have a drug deficiency, right? How many physicians acknowledge that? You don't just have a statin deficiency, you have a crappy diet, and you haven't exercised in years, right? Just as an example. So my opinion was, and this didn't come to mind when he was telling me this story over dinner one night. We were enjoying ourselves at the South Jersey Shore in Wildwood Crest, where we went as a family vacation every summer. And it didn't come to me at that time. But if I had that conversation to do again, I would have talked to him about logotherapy and refer him to Frankl's book and to ask those patients why they want to get better and who else will benefit. Who else will benefit is a great question. I love asking this question to patients. I often don't need to, but when I do, it's just one of the best questions to ask a new patient. Who else will benefit if you get better? And this who else will benefit other than you if you get better? Because we identify, okay, what do you want to work on? Okay, what if all these things, what if we were totally successful in every way? Who else other than you would benefit? What a great question. I teach this to my students all the time. And especially in our functional medicine program, which is a board certification program now, we're proud to say, in natural functional medicine, which is a term I coined 9 years ago. And this just came up in one of our recent calls. And we meet every Thursday to discuss cases and patients and practice challenges. And it comes up, regularly in our gatherings that compliance is a challenge. How do I get patients to take their supplements, to change their diet? So you got to find out why they want to get better, and what's their reason for wanting to address whatever it is. So anyway, this study, he wanted to prove that natural interventions were at least as good, if not superior, in long-term outcomes than just managing symptoms with drugs. And that's so anyway, I would have asked him to bake that in the cake of asking every patient in this study why they want to get better and who they want to get better for, other than themselves, because we're just built for each other, right? We are indeed our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper. We are here for each other. And when we activate that innate desire for meaning, to make a difference, to serve, bless, benefit, help somebody else, which is essential to a life of meaning and joy and happiness and purpose and all of this. As Bobby Kennedy once said in an interview, he said, I'm God's happy soldier. That's how he described himself. God's happy soldier. Here's my Maha cap there, which I proudly wore a number of times here in Boulder, driving some of the natives a little crazy, which is fine. But anyway, so that was kind of a cool Bobby moment there. But anyway, I would have encouraged him to build into the study this logotherapy, this therapy of meaning approach. So anyway, happy ending for this patient, as long as she was with me. It was a number of years. Her quality of life massively improved. Her cancer markers never went up. All of her follow-up visits were perfect, clean, no issues, no recurrence, clean colonoscopies, everything. They had to remove about 6 inches of the colon, which is a lot, but thankfully plenty of colon left to do the job, and very positive outcome, which is what I'm used to seeing with cancer patients, is they just do really well. And so there's this, and whether you're a practitioner or not, there's a few lessons here. One is to use your ability to uplift, to encourage, to appreciate, to acknowledge, and to say so. About a month ago here on the show, we looked at some recent research on this subject of a written appreciation massively improving health outcomes. All right, just, even a text message. They even included text messages. Didn't have to be like a letter or an email. Even a text message expressing acknowledgement and appreciation totally improved health outcomes and life quality in the patients in the study, and there were hundreds. So that's thing one, is first of all, the attitude of gratitude determines our altitude in life. And so I aspire to that, as Bobby said, being God's happy warrior, taking a stand, not against, there is something of taking a stand against evil, and even a more of a stand for the good, to be a vehicle for the expression of goodness and truth and beauty of the divine in the world, right? And as I said earlier, Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And he also said, follow me. He also said, greater works than I do shall ye do. And I think that just speaks something to our shared responsibility to be that, to make the world a better place even a little bit each day. So we can lay our head on the pillow and know that, we did something to uplift another person, to bless, acknowledge, appreciate, encourage another person, and to spend time with people. It's really important. We just had a big Christmas party here, which I do every year. We had about 40 or 50 people here for a few hours. It was awesome. We do it every couple of months. And so many people, and this is on the 20th, this is 10 days ago, so many people came up to me and just said, thank you for doing this. It means so much just to be together. People said that in a number of different ways throughout the evening. Thank you so much for doing this. It's just so good to be together with people and meet new people and enjoy some great food and music and sing together. We did, hours of Christmas carols. A few of us played the piano, helped people sing and handed out songbooks. Simple things. But she says, so many people just said that. Thank you for, it's just so good to be together. And there's just like really cool people here who, I wouldn't have met otherwise, they said. So anyway, it doesn't mean you have to host house parties like I like to do. I've been doing that for 25 years. But it does mean, stay connected to the people you care about and who care about you. Make sure you do not miss opportunities to acknowledge and appreciate them. And remember that it's what doesn't get said that messes up relationships much more than, an ill word that gets said. So, and I'm speaking this to myself as well, scan your life. Who means something to you, who you've not acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you for being part of my life. You really are a bright part of my life, or something like that. And scan your life for folks where there's something unsaid. It's going to be uncomfortable. You don't want to do it. I get it. I'm the same way. But make sure there aren't things that stay unsaid that need to be aired, acknowledged, cleared, brought out in the open. And what I found, as much as I don't like doing that, when I do that, it's never as bad as I thought, right? But it's usually my intuition was correct that there was something that needed to be addressed, but it wasn't like, totally catastrophic. It was just something that was simmering some not good feeling, you know. I had a friend here, who's also a practitioner, who just like stopped replying to me for months. And a mutual friend's like, "What's up with that?" I was like, "I don't know. I have no idea what's going on." I'm reaching out. "Hey, is everything okay? Hey, if I did something bad, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'd like to make amends. I have no idea what the problem is." But someone I was in very regular contact with just suddenly kind of ghosted me, I think is what the young people would say, younger folks would say, and just ceased to respond to calls, text, emails, everything, voicemail, everything, for months. And I'm like, you know what? I've tried so many. I must have reached out, 10 times, and I'm just letting it go. This mutual friend was like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I have no idea. That's the problem. I don't know what the problem is. Like, what did I do? I want to know what I did so I can apologize and make it right." And oh yeah, there's our Christmas tree there. I'll leave that in shot. You can enjoy that. And finally, we were both at a conference here in Colorado, a natural health conference, and I was speaking at the conference. She had a booth, and I just waved, hi, and just did not engage because look, if she wants to talk to me, she's going to talk to me. I don't want to impose or invade. I've already reached out, several times. So I just, smiled and kept my distance. She came over and said, "What happened?" And I had said something that I didn't think was, a bad thing. But she said, "You were kind of vague. I asked you a question. You really didn't answer it, and it kind of bugged me." I was like, "That was it?" And I'm thinking to myself, "That was it? That's why, but, it was a growth for me because I kept reaching out because I value her and the relationship. We have a collegial, professional relationship, and have, been in groups socially and just a good colleague, wonderful person. And I also got to I can only work with response. So if there's no response, there's nothing to do, and I just let it go. And then it was another example of it's what didn't get said. In this case, on her part, for months, that was the problem. Like, I didn't know I said something that she took in this way. I'm like, "Oh wow, okay, sorry about that. I didn't realize I was unclear and that this was a big, massive problem. So I'm sorry about that. Let's get clear." And we had a clarifying conversation. I apologized, and anything I can do? She says no, and I said, "Are we good?" She said, "We're good," and now we're good. Because we had we had the awkward, difficult, uncomfortable conversation, and it's our willingness to have those difficult, uncomfortable conversations that is a key to relationship, because stuff happens, and preventing injury and and introducing repair, relationship repair, often starts with having those difficult, uncomfortable conversations that we'd rather not have, but it's important, and then things can heal. And so that's another thing, So we have this acknowledgement, staying connected, encouragement, appreciation, having those, and one measure of the health of a relationship, not the only one, but one of the measures of a healthy relationship is the willingness on both people's parts to have those difficult, uncomfortable conversations, because that's what keeps the field clear. And I've messed this up way more times than I'd like to acknowledge, but I have. And I've learned that it's good to check in. How are we doing? Are we okay? For example, I grew up in New York City, and our mayor, I think it was in the 80s, was Ed Koch. I don't know if you remember. Ed Koch was the mayor of New York for many years. And he would, every week, he was somewhere in the 5 boroughs of New York City, just walking down the street talking to people. And his favorite question, and you saw him on, news shows and video, whatever, there was no really internet at that time in any significant degree, and not everybody had a smartphone. There wasn't any of that. So this was news reports, and here's the mayor in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Here's the mayor in Queens. Here's the mayor in the Bronx. In Lower Manhattan. Here's the mayor in Staten Island. And his favorite question was, "How am I doing?" And this stuck with me. It was a customer service question. It was great. Great. You can see this online on YouTube. I've looked this up. Ed Koch. And his favorite question to just the citizens of New York was, "How am I doing?" Which you could say, was a little vain, but really it was, "How am I doing serving you as your mayor?" And it was amazing. He always had, or usually had, an assistant with him who was taking notes, and he would take notes or mentally take a note. And he was always asking for feedback. And I never forgot that, obviously. This is 40 years ago. How am I doing? And I'll do some version of that with patients, friends, family. Not how am I doing, but how are we doing? It keeps it keeps the field clear, so these accumulated resentments and grievances and things like that don't accumulate. So we have an opportunity here. If we look at the 3 aspects of life, of being, doing, and having, and these are great questions to ask ourselves over the next few days as we approach the new year. We have 2026 coming up in 3 days, which is really awesome. And I think it's good to take an inventory of how the year went, 2025, for ourselves. Who did we become? All right, and not just what did we accomplish. That's good to look at too, for sure. But how have we changed? What is the state of us, our relationships? Remember, as Stephen Covey said, what really matters in life is the quality of your relationships, your contribution, and your character. So how's my character? How has it changed this year? How are my relationships? And do a scan and make sure all appreciations are expressed, and anything that feels off is raised. How am I doing? How are we doing? And trust your intuition. If you're a practitioner or not, trust your intuition. We are blessing machines, as I said in the beginning. And not to reduce us to a machine, but we have that ability, and our meaning comes from that, of making sure that our lives bless others in some way, that their lives are somehow enhanced, enriched, brightened, because we are there. So that's the being, the doing. What did I accomplish this year? And then looking ahead, who do I want to become this year? What do I want to accomplish this year? And maybe there are things you'd like to acquire, that you'd like to earn and bring into your life in some way. That's fine too. But that's the 3 areas: being, doing, and having. Being's the most important. That's what Covey talked about: character, and relationships, contribution. What do I want to bring into the world? And scan those relationships for appreciation opportunities, and also clarifying opportunities as well. So I'll look back, and it's good to write this stuff down. I have some time before the kids come back on Wednesday to do this myself, and because that's one of the principles of holistic healthcare, is do as I do. and take a good inventory of the year that has ended, and look ahead to the year that is to come. What is mine? This is for all of us to ask. What is mine to create? What is mine to become? All right, who am I? Who can I become? What can I create, contribute? How can I enliven and brighten and heal, if needed, relationships, and be that blessing to others? So having some clarity, appreciation for the year behind, intention and vision, right? Without vision, the people perish, as the Bible says. What's the vision? Looking ahead. As Covey would say, begin with the end in mind, right? The second habit after be proactive, not reactive. And that's another good book to revisit, not just Man's Search for Meaning. Since I gave it to the kids as a Christmas present, I'm going to reread it again myself. And then, oh, by the way, the other book I gave them, I realized I had not yet given them the great books with a capital G, capital B, the great books of world literature. So I gave them one of the greatest books of the great books of world literature, which should be part of every educational process for every person, regardless of age, is Aristotle's Ethics, Nicomedean Ethics, I think. And it's a heavy read. It's a dense read. I said, take a year with this book, and then we'll check in as we go along. And then next Christmas, what'd you think? So I'm got that in my Kindle, and sometimes I can just get through, a couple of paragraphs. It's so, it's not an easy read, but it's okay. But it's a pretty remarkable book. One of the world's great books. And I'll give you let me give you a link for that as well. This is Aristotle. And here it is. I'll give you a link. Nicomachean Ethics. And I looked around for what was the best translation of this from the ancient Greek. And the consensus was that this Bartlett and Collins version was pretty awesome. Readable, but also accurate. And so this is with lots of commentary and guides and translations, things like that. Aristotle was a student of Plato for 20, and he was at the Plato's Academy for 20 years. And anyway, so this is considered his greatest work, Nicomachean Ethics. This is the Bartlett and Collins translation. And pretty awesome. So the introduction is really good. You get a real sense of who he is. But this book is about happiness. It's about morals. It's about character. His 11, Aristotle's 11 aspects of good character. And ultimately, one of the points of the book is that we were born to be happy, and that happiness comes from our character and our contribution. So very Covey-esque. And perhaps, I'm sure, Covey was influenced by this work as a very well-read teacher. As Covey pointed out in the beginning of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he read all of the so-called success literature since the founding of the country in colonial times and revolutionary times, reading one of my heroes, Ben Franklin. And he said the first 150 years of so-called success literature had almost entirely to do with character. And only recently has it focused on techniques. And that was quite a statement. So he had read, hundreds of books on the subject, basically everything that was published, or a lot of it. and came to that conclusion, which I thought was pretty fabulous. So that's the being part of being, doing, and having. Nothing wrong with having, but it's on the basis of our contribution and service and who we are. So let's see here. I'm going to check for our questions. Sabine, do you feel comfortable to give an example? I'm not sure what the question was. Well, give an example of what? I'm happy to. Yeah. So I'm not sure what the question is, Sabine. I'd love to answer that for you. And we're just going to pop over to our watch page and see if any questions came in there. Okay. Oh, there's Sue. It's Dr. Bosler in Indiana. Okay. Well, good. So I know some of you came for one of my favorite things to talk about, which is on the health side. And so we'll do a quick something on that. And then I'll play some music for you, and then we will be finished for today. So, all right. So we talked about last week. We talked about homocysteine, and we also we shared a study. We shared a study that homocysteine levels were not just about cardiovascular risk, and homocysteine is a very well-established marker or risk factor for cardiovascular disease, but it also is highly correlated and perhaps causally with hypothyroidism. So elevated homocysteine, which is something we create, and we'll talk a little bit about that, is not just about cardiovascular disease, but also relates to, as we saw last week, with hypothyroidism as a secondary marker, in addition to free T3 and free T4 and TSH, but also to infertility and hypothyroidism and other things. Now, certainly a risk factor in heart attack and stroke, for sure, and in general, with not just thrombotic events, but also occlusive or blockage of the vessels. So what we will call an occlusive event. So wanted to just do a little bit about that and how it relates a lot more than simply cardiovascular disease. So wanted to just go through a little bit of research with you. Okay, great. Thanks, Sabine. Appreciate that. Glad I covered that. I do like to be specific. And I'll give you a little trick that I use. I learned this from the National Speakers Association meetings I used to go to. Great organization. And so a little bit of under the hood here for you when I speak. I learned this from a very famous speaking coach. And he said, here are the two most popular, or not most popular, here are the two most effective words you'll ever say in any speech you ever give. And so now we're all like on the edge of our seat. This guy is a globally famous speaker on his subject, which is more on the business side, but also trains other speakers, teaches other speakers how to be more effective, which I always want to get better. And he said, for example, and those were the 2 words. He said, the 2 most engaging words you'll ever use with an audience ever. And he built this up, and we're all on the edge of our seats. Oh, we got to know what this is. What is he talking about? And the 2 words were, for example. He said, as soon as you say, for example, and you make it practical, you make it real, you make it, something they can relate to. Because every time you say, for example, the listener knows you're about to share a story of whatever, simple or not. They know that they're about to hear some type of story. And their attention is immediately amplified because they want to hear the story. What's the example? Right? So this is what Sabine had just said. Thank you, Sabine. And so I've taken that to heart. This is many years ago that I had a period of time, a few years, where I was taking these trainings. Because it was time. I had worked with one of the top speaking coaches in New York for 4 years to become a better speaker. And it's just a little story. For example, she came to one of my seminars. So I hired her. I was like, I want to be a better speaker. She came to one of my seminars and just sat in the back and watched me and the audience and wrote like 8 pages of notes of everything I could do better. Like it was a lot of feedback. It was pretty. I was like, oh man, I suck. Look at all she wrote. So then I worked on that. She came back several months later, or maybe a year later. I was like, hey, I got to work on all this stuff. It took a while. And I said, okay, I think I'm ready. She came back to another seminar in New York, and she had 3 pages of notes of things that I could have done better. So I was like, wow, okay, so it's an improvement. And then sometime later, I don't know, several months, maybe a year or so later, she came back and she had nothing to improve. She had a few comments on what I had improved. And that's good to me. For, F-O-R, if I didn't enunciate that correctly, well, that's on me. For, F-O-R, example, E-X-A-M-P-L-E, example. I got 3rd place in the 8th grade spelling bee. Anyway, so finally, she said, okay, I think I've taught you what I can. You've addressed all those issues. But anyway, that was it was. So then, coming to Colorado a few years later, it's like, okay, I want to keep getting better. So I started attending these NSA meetings. We have a great chapter here in Colorado, and to keep getting better, more effective as a speaker. So anyway, talk about homocysteine. This will be our health topic of today, and I'll give you folks some, and I'll get this over to the watch page as well. There you go. And I thought this paper was pretty good. This is from the Journal of Thrombosis and Hemostasis, which means stop bleeding. Hemostasis with the old Latin-esque spelling. Elevation, and this is back in 2005. This is 20 years ago. And the older papers are fine for mechanistic studies. because they're just talking about how the body works. Oh, it's 20 years old. Doesn't matter. This is how the body works, right? So these older, if it's a clinical trial, maybe, clinical study, outcome study, maybe you want something more recent, more current. But this is perfectly fine because the physiology doesn't really change a lot, although our understanding of it does, so you want to also keep up to date with the newer things. Quote, elevation of plasma homocysteine is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, stroke, and venous thromboembolism. There you go. And so the question here is it a cause or an effect? The strongest evidence that homocysteine plays a causal role in atherothrombosis, meaning vascular clot, has been provided by studies using animal models and so forth. So it's associated with endothelial dysfunction, which is the lining of the blood vessels, and the glycocalyx, which lines the lining of the blood vessels. So the endothelial lining has a lining itself, which is the endothelial glycocalyx. Manifested in the decreased bioavailability of endothelium-derived nitric oxide, which is vasodilative. So when homocysteine is elevated, usually the blood vessels are messed up and don't make enough nitric oxide to open up circulation. So that's that. Elevated homocysteine increases susceptibility to blood clots and the development of plaque. So there's one thing. Now, we can scooch on from there, and what I wanted to also share today was this paper. Again, it's just an abstract, which is fine. And we're kind of expanding beyond the cardiovascular. We're including that, but we're going beyond just the cardiovascular implications. And we talked about infertility, hypothyroid, and today, mentioning at least, just in the interest of time, Alzheimer's disease. So this is published in Lancet Neurology, 2003, and just emphasizing, again, folks, when you check this every year, the upper limit is 8. So it should be 8 or less. A high circulating concentration of the amino acid homocysteine is an independent risk factor for stroke. Stroke, by the way, we have about 800,000 strokes per year in the United States, which is crazy. So it's like a stroke every 40 seconds or something, or every minute or so in the U.S. Now, 87% of those strokes are occlusive, meaning thrombotic, meaning a clot blocking a brain artery and starving the area past that blockage of oxygen, of blood, and therefore oxygen and nutrition. So 13% of strokes are hemorrhagic or bleed style strokes where the artery will burst and starve the area past the burst of oxygen as well, of blood flow as well. Either way, you get brain damage. It's basically a heart attack in the brain. And anyway, Alzheimer's disease commonly co-occurs with stroke. Studies have found associations between high homocysteine and Alzheimer's disease and revealed that dementia in Alzheimer's disease was associated with evidence of brain infarcts, meaning blockage, on autopsy. Thus, elevated homocysteine and Alzheimer's could be linked by stroke or microvascular disease. And that was one of the things I wanted to mention. That the research since 2003, dozens of studies, have absolutely confirmed, for sure, definitely, absolutely, that Alzheimer's disease is in part a microcirculatory impairment. Microcirculation makes up most of brain and all organ and all whole body circulation. The macrocirculation, which is about 26% of all the blood vessels, are the bigger, often visible arteries and veins. The other 74% of all the blood vessels in the body, which is 60 to 100,000 miles worth, think about that, are microvessels, which are precapillary arterioles, then the capillaries, where the good stuff is exchanged with the bad stuff, and then the postcapillary venules. So you can massively improve brain function and prevent Alzheimer's and dementia and all these issues by optimizing microvascular circulation. And the most effective, powerful, easily by far proven way to optimize microcirculation in the brain. And I tell you, more and more patients come in their 50s and 60s whose parents have some type of Alzheimer's disease or dementia or memory loss. And I was like, why, how can I help you? I says, I don't want that to happen to me. And this Beamer device is absolutely astounding for improving microvascular circulation. So it's a great brain gym, a brain therapy in part. And so if you go to this page, you'll learn all about it. I found, so we have weekly classes on this thing. They're all free. I did a research compilation, found 64 studies on this device. Specifically, it's the only evidence-based device in the world. And my friend Lori and I wrote a 14-lesson email course, which you can get for free, and access to a reference website. So if you don't have this thing, your brain will thank you. And there's a video here you can look at of how the circulation is massively improved. I'll just skip to the end here. In 8 minutes. So think this is somebody's colon, but this could easily be your brain. So I'm going to give you the summary here. It's towards the end. Let's see here. Okay, so here is the before. Imagine this is your brain, and that's the sluggish blood flow in your brain. And imagine 8 minutes later, it looked like that. Your brain would work better. You would have clearer thinking, better memory, better cognition, focus, concentration. All of that would be dramatically improved. It's the only device, only intervention in the world of any kind that does this. Total stagnation, in that case, in this guy, caused by stress. And then look at that amazing restoration of oxygenation of the tissues. So that's another good thing to do for your brain related to this paper we just looked at of the relationship of microcirculation to brain health and memory. So that's what they talked about here. By the way, you want to, let me get a reference for you here. If your homocysteine is elevated, then one of the tests you want to do is a very good, more of a functional test. I'll put it in the chat here, called methylmalonic acid, which is a very sensitive marker for B12 status, which sometimes is a factor with homocysteine metabolism and methylation. So we can support homocysteine metabolism so that it can get converted into methionine with supporting methylation with things like beets. Beets are a great way to support methylation. So taking beta food, eating beets, these are all very good things to do, in part to support your methylation. So eating beets, taking beta food, which I've been doing for 30 years, which is organic beets and beet greens. And this guy came out and the link is in the chat. This is came out in, I believe, 1943. Yes, 1943, and it's organic beets and organic beet greens, which is very helpful for improving circulation and methylation and nitric oxide production and endothelial health and thinning the bile to improve detoxification. And, for example, both of my brothers they're older than me, they have a fatty liver and had their gallbladders out. My dad had a fatty liver. So I've been taking this every day for 30 years, just 3 a day. Preventatively, I recommend to patients 6 a day for 2 to 4 months, and to get more beets into the diet. It's really helpful. The other way, really good way to support methylation is with this guy. It's a newer product, just came out, called Whole Food Folate. And in this formula, if you look at it, it's a really helpful thing made of natural sources of these nutrients like folate, not the synthetic folic acid, but natural folate from turnip greens, collard greens, and chlorella. You're supporting methylation with naturally occurring folate and B12, not added. You'll notice here in the formula, there's no synthetics. It's turnip greens, and it tells you what foods are good to eat. So eating turnip greens, eating collard greens. I really like collard greens, sautéed, with some olive oil. Oh, it's wonderful. And chlorella, not really a food for human beings, but can be used in this context as a therapeutic source. That's a good thing. Also, for naturally supporting methylation, check that methylmalonic acid test. And Dr. Hinder's asking about red food. Very good formula. I like it. And here's the link so you can learn more about it. And I'm working through my first bottle of red food myself. I'm going to take some right now because I haven't taken it today. I've been taking 3 a day. I'm mostly through the bottle. There's my 3 a day. Another way to support methylation and vascular health in general. So we scooch over to the formula, and there it is. Boom. The first ingredient is beets, organic beetroot. The other star of the show, and you can smell it, it's wonderful, is organic mountain spinach, Atriplex hortensis. I'm not sure why they left out the botanical name of the beet. But anyway, so those are the 2 main ingredients to support vascular health and methylation and circulation, is the mountain spinach and the beetroot. It also has some algae in it. Again, that's not food for human beings. It's food for fish and other, creatures in the water, but we can use it ourselves as a therapeutic food. And again, it's the last ingredient. The main guy here is the mountain spinach, which is very unique to this formula, and then the beetroot. Also notice the naturally occurring chromium in the formula. It's very good. So I just took 3, as I've been doing daily since I got the bottle, just about. And you're getting 30 mics of chromium per capsule. So that's pretty good. Most people, having looked at thousands of hair analyses over the last 20 years, maybe 25 years, no, I would say 20 years. Chromium is a very common deficiency, one of the causes of insulin resistance and therefore metabolic syndromes. This is a great formula. Again, it's all food except the algae, but that's more of a therapeutic food. And we use that sometimes. Like I recommend all my cancer patients drink wheatgrass juice, right? The juice of the grass grown from wheat berries. That's not typically food in our diet, like human food, but drinking that juice is a natural therapeutic. It's very helpful. And so this is right off the farm. These ingredients, except the algae, but they're growing the mountain spinach and beets right on the farm. They grow about, well, let's see, was it a couple of million pounds of beets a year, because it goes in a lot of different formulas. And there's a big hubbub these days. Mercola's been talking about it for years, this astaxanthin thing. This is naturally occurring, not a synthetic or fractionated ingredient, but it's a very good cardiovascular and methylation support formula. Also can help with vision and other areas. So it's a good formula, and I like it. It's all food, or food-ish, and there's no synthetics, which is great. So it really is truly a whole food concentrate, which I really like. So that's going to also help with, which is one of our topics today, is homocysteine metabolism. So just a little bit more research I wanted to share with you today. We talked about what to do about it, in the diet and supplementation. This is another paper. This is from JAMA Neurology, same theme. Homocysteine isn't just cardiovascular, it's also brain and neurological. So that's, I think, pretty significant. And more evidence of this. This paper came out in 2000, and they said over the last 10 years, so since 1990, there's been an explosion in interest, quote, in homocysteine, a sulfur-bearing amino acid that occupies a central location in many metabolic pathways. Homocysteine is an important risk factor in vascular disease, including stroke, independent of other risk factors. Homocysteine levels can often be normalized by supplementing the diet with folate, possibly B6. That's going to be your cataplex B core, cataplex B2, stupidly renamed from cataplex G, and B12. And that can be the cyanocobalamin, which then is converted into the methylated B12, or some people will take the methylated B12, on its own, where it's kind of pre-converted. And some people take B12 shots of the synthetic isolate, sterilized, and that's not great, but because it's not supposed to inject vitamins, but some people will do that, and some will feel better symptomatically, meaning they probably need to increase these foods and more natural supplements in their diet. These observations raise the exciting possibility that this inexpensive and well-tolerated therapy may be effective in decreasing the incidence of vascular disease. Aha. In addition to its association with cerebrovascular disease, so stroke, microvascular impairment in the brain, plaque, homocysteine may play a role in neurodegenerative disorders, even if only as a marker of functional B12 deficiency, which you can detect with the methylmalonic acid blood test. If it's high, if that methylmalonic acid blood test is high, your B12 is low. So you do not want a high MMA, methylmalonic acid, result. That's important. Homocysteine is also important to neurologists since most anticonvulsants raise homocysteine levels. Aha. An effect that may explain the teratogenic, meaning like hurt the fetus, effects of these drugs. So that's pretty awesome. So it's a very great paper, and they get into all the details, the relationship of methionine to homocysteine, vitamin deficiencies, vascular disease. It's a very good paper, and it's full text. So that's really good. And this is from 1999. So again, as I said before, research doesn't have to be new to be useful and relevant. Keep that in mind. So that's that. Also, give you some more reasons to evaluate this for yourself and your family and your patients. Every year, checking your homocysteine. Simple thing to check, simple thing to fix. Done it hundreds of times. When it's high, it comes down. Not difficult. It's pretty simple. And here is, we did that, that's a no. And here it is. I'm going to skip that one, and we'll do this one. Okay. This was published in Food and Nutrition Bulletin back in 2008. Homocysteine is a sulfur amino acid whose metabolism stands at the intersection. I love that. I love that language in a medical paper. An amino acid which stands at the intersection of two pathways. I love that. Remethylation, which requires folic acid and B12, coenzymes. By the way, another word for vitamin is coenzyme. Vitamins are coenzymes. Some can be manufactured. Most have to be delivered by the diet and supplementation. And number 2, transsulfuration, which requires the B6 coenzyme. Data suggest that elevations in homocysteine are a risk factor for occlusive, meaning plaque, blockage, vascular disease. And the Framingham studies, meaning the Framingham Heart Study, co-directed by the great Dr. George Mann, M-A-N-N, who destroyed the cholesterol myth decades ago, the statin scam, which we've talked about here quite a bit, and, by the way, which we talk about all the time in our incredibly awesome cardiovascular mastery program. Give you all a discount on that and our other courses, MWM10. But definitely, if you haven't taken this course, it's one of our best, I have to say. We have several faculty in this course, and it's just really, really good. And we talk about the statin scam, cholesterol, current research on cardiovascular health, diet, lifestyle, supplementation, herbal medicine, lab testing. It's pretty awesome course, cardiocourse.com. And yeah, I thought I gave you, well, what did I, no, yeah, shoot, we think we have all the links are in the, yeah, all the links are in the chat. So, here it is. In the Framingham studies, that's a Framingham Heart Study, we have shown that plasma homocysteine concentration is inversely related to intake of folate and B6 and B12. And again, you don't need synthetics. You ideally would not use synthetics for that purpose, but you would use foods like organ meats, grass-fed beef, eggs, green vegetables, supplements like Cataplex B Core, whole food folate, red food, beta food. And then they point out almost 2/3 of high homocysteine is attributable to low vitamin status. Oh, look at that. Elevated homocysteine is a risk factor for carotid stenosis in 25% in both men and women. Elevated homocysteine is associated with increased total mortality and cardiovascular mortality, increased risk of stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's, bone fracture, heart failure, preeclampsia, possibly neural tube defects, as we said last week, low thyroid, infertility. So it's pretty significant. This multitude of relationships between elevated homocysteine, which means 9 and up, and diseases that affect the elderly, pregnant women, and the embryo points to the existence of a common denominator which may be responsible for these diseases. So there you go. So that could be methylation defects or other issues. So very significant paper that I wanted to make sure we got to today. Pretty big stuff. And then we'll just finish up these guys. Let me give you these. We're talking about this cognitive, memory, etc. Check this out. This is published in Psychiatry Online, the homocysteine hypothesis of depression from 2007. Quote, high homocysteine associated with cerebrovascular disease, monoamine neurotransmitters, that's where the MAOI, monoamine oxidase inhibitor drugs come from, and depression. A plausible hypothesis is that high homocysteine can cause cerebral vascular disease and neurotransmitter deficiency, which cause depression of mood. And this might be why these MAOI drugs are so ineffective and dangerous, because you're not addressing the cause of the problem. The homocysteine depression hypothesis, if true, would mandate inclusions of imaging studies for cerebrovascular disease. And by the way, the best way to check your brain microcirculation is looking at your retina. When you go for an eye exam, keep up with those eye exams, folks. You want to see how your retina is doing. It's the best microvascular imaging you can do for your whole body, is to see how the capillaries basically in the back of your eye are doing. Would mandate inclusions of imaging studies for cerebrovascular disease and measures of homocysteine, folate, B12, B6 vitamins in the clinical evaluation of older depressed patients. So again, better than a B12 test is the methylmalonic acid test, MMA. If you're going to look at folate, ideally, not all labs offer this, but RBC, red blood cell folate, would be a better test than just whole blood or serum folate. But look at red cell folate. A little more expensive, but if possible, is a better test. And this is not difficult to fix. It really isn't. So that's that. And yeah, and then this guy, let me get this into the watch page and the chat. Check this out. Mayo Clinic Proceedings 2008, homocysteine level in coronary heart disease incidence, and my favorite type of study, systematic review, which is an extensive literature review, and meta-analysis aggregating data. Yes, Dr. Hinder's talking about, think of all the people on PPIs, and that's very important. Antacids cause all these problems if taken for more than a few weeks, because You can't absorb B12 without enough stomach acid. You need intrinsic factor, which requires acid to activate the intrinsic factor from the stomach to absorb B12. And so a lot of folks taking these Nexium, Prilosec, Zantac, disaster, and not just once every few months as needed, but every day for years, are almost guaranteeing that they're going to get some brain problems and other things. So anyway, this paper, what did they find? Each increase in homocysteine level increases risk of coronary heart disease events by approximately 20%, independent of traditional coronary heart disease risk factors. This was based on an evaluation, review, and analysis of 26 articles, and pretty remarkable. So for every increase by 5 in homocysteine, they had an increase in coronary heart disease. Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, one of our faculty here at the school, Pam Levin, the functional medicine nurse, she's amazing, and was just on the show recently. Please listen to that interview. And this is, and I just want to make sure you all know about her course that I've made some contribution to as well, and give you the link for that. Use your discount code for being on the show here. She has a question, and here, by the way, while I'm answering the question, you can look at this amazing course that we've put together. And projectile vomiting from whole food folate. Wow. So it looks like turnip greens may have been the factor. Yeah, I haven't heard of that either. But if there was, you'd have to do some IgG blood testing for the turnip green allergy. So that would be a blood test, preferably IgG. You can also throw in IgM, IgE, IgM, for example, in addition to IgG. But you could confirm that with a blood test. Sounds like there was a muscle test that may have profoundly implicated the turnip green. So, that is possible. I would say anything can do anything, right? But I don't know what else would do that other than a pretty significant allergic reaction. And that's just the body getting rid of the reactive food through emesis, through vomiting. So that is, a thing. So I would say it's pretty rare. Most allergies are to proteins. So potentially the proteins in the turnip greens could be a factor. Again, anything can do anything, however rare. So I would just pay attention to that. And you certainly can confirm with a blood test, a food allergy panel that includes turnip greens and is ideally an IgG, meaning long-term historical exposure and sensitization test. So yeah, sorry about that. And some Antranex in cases like that can hasten the clearance of the histamines from that allergic reaction. Richard, Beamer can be used over the eyes. Absolutely. Do it all the time. Definitely true. What setting? Yeah, Beamer over the head is great. Absolutely great. And I would highly recommend it. I do it every day myself. I have the Beamer on my head. And typically if you're going to use the B pad, which is, there's a couple of ways to do it. One is with the B body. It's a gentler approach. It's the one that I use. Is the top portion of the B body doesn't have coils in it, so you fold that under the mat and then move it up so your head has active coils under your head. And then I do intensity medium on the B bed, or intensity high on the B bed, or intensity medium on the B body, with, again, the top part folded under so you have active coils under your head. And that's the simple way to do it. I do that myself with my bee bed or bee body every day. And then you can do more specific treatment with the bee pad right over the eyes or wrapped around the head, either way. One of my another functional medicine nurse, Linnell Hagee, has been doing this for 15 years, and she no longer needed glasses. Her vision improved, so that and she's in her mid-70s, I think, and still to this day does not need any type of reading glasses or other glasses to see well. She has near perfect vision, and it improved with using the beamer over her eyes every day on typically intensity low or program 1 without the plus setting on. I don't think the plus setting is terrible. I mean, I tend to be a little more aggressive with beamer settings than most people are. But you don't need a lot. What I have learned is you don't need a lot to do a lot with the beamer on the head. So program 1, 8 minutes, intensity 2, 3, 4 is built into that, or intensity low, which is level 3. Plus signal optional. You can turn it off, be a gentler thing, which I would always do with a new person, has been incredibly helpful. I've had Alzheimer's patients start to put sentences together with advanced Alzheimer's. Their physical ability improves, their mental ability, their memory, speech, all kinds of things improve. Now, that said, I'm not only using the beamer, but using diet, supplementation, acupuncture, herbal medicine. But since including the beamer with my Alzheimer's and dementia and memory patients, it's been a dramatic difference when they get one to use at home. That's the key, is if you want to use the beamer for your head and your brain and your cognition, it kind of needs to be every day for 8 minutes. And it works better than any other intervention in the world, by far, it's not even close, for improving microvascular circulation, which is circulation not to the organ, but within the organ, in this case, the brain. So, to get one of these things, we do a lot of training, support, onboarding, all of that. Just get a hold of my colleague Cynthia, who's amazing, at 713-410-5827. Again, 713-410-5827. And just use this thing twice a day for 8 minutes. Everything improves, I have to say. Patients love this thing. It's 100%, which, like, when does that happen? Every single patient who uses this thing at home is delighted. They just feel better. They're calmer, more alert, more awake. They have better energy, better circulation, better endurance, cognitive ability, vision. Had one colleague, started growing hair. He was kind of bald and started growing hair. He's a medical doctor in New Mexico. And he didn't try to grow hair. His hair started growing back. Another patient, erectile dysfunction of 15 years, was gone in 2 weeks. No longer needed medication for erectile dysfunction. This was supported by Saudi Arabian research published last year on MS patients. They put the bee spot over the genitals, right on the genitals in the male, and in a few weeks, massive improvements, pardon the pun, massive improvements in erectile function, performance, everything improved. So again, when you improve microcirculation, you're addressing the underlying system of all organs, and all systems of the body rely on microcirculation. If you remember that idea that macrocirculation gets blood to, he's wanting some attention. Macrocirculation gets blood to the organ. Microcirculation moves blood within the organ. If you just remember that one thing, then you'll realize how you can very easily, literally in 8 minutes, improve the function of all organs, and mitochondria, by the way, which rely on that oxygen. So literally, you can improve all organ function in every organ, everywhere in the body, when you optimize microcirculation. This is the most effective, proven way to do that. So anyway, this is the only evidence-based device on the planet. You know, the other devices have 0 studies using that exact specific device. This has 64 studies, 44 human studies, 8 animal studies, 8 or 9 laboratory studies, total of 64 on using this exact specific device as the intervention. So that's amazing. Sure, it's an investment, you know, but you don't eat junk food, right? Eating organic food costs a little more. That's okay. You're going to pay for eating better food, right? So that is, pretty significant. So I've got more on homocysteine, but I think we're going to do that on another week, just in the interest of time. And wanted to thank you all for being here today. Just checking on the questions. Any other questions? Okay, I think that's all the questions that came in today. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for listening to my year-end musings. And again, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays to you and yours. Really glad you're with us. Looking ahead, wanted to invite all of you to join us, and I'll be there in Dallas, Texas, in a month on the 31st with Dustin Strong is putting on a seminar in Dallas. I'll give you the link here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, live, in person. I'm not teaching seminar for this one, but I am going to be speaking on the panel. So I'm not teaching a clinical subject. Dustin Strong and Dr. Jeff Crippen and other of our faculty will be speaking at this event. I'll be participating on the panel discussion, having a conversation with the attendees there. And I'll put this on our watch page as well. And yep. And then, please join us and use the discount code. You'll get $50 discount. Just use my last name. Gaeta is the Italian. And you'll get a $50 discount on the attendance. There's continuing education credits for many types of practitioners. And it's going to be great. It's going to be a great event, great food, and it's going to be an awesome event. I look forward to participating, so I look forward to seeing you there. In January 31st in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Unfortunately, Bentley won't be there, but I will be there, and it's going to be a wonderful event, right? Yeah, I'm not going to see you that weekend. I'll be gone. Yeah. All right, well, thanks, everybody. Blessings to you and yours. Thanks for being here today. And I will, I'm going to play you a little Christmas music, holiday music for you, and we'll see you next week. All right, thanks, everybody. If you have not yet had a consult in a year, make sure you do that, and take a course. To use your discount to take one of our 63 courses now. 25 faculty at michaelgaeta.com. Wonderful stuff. All right, and you've got the link there to Pam Levin's course, and use your discount, MWM10, Natural Female Hormone Care, and other courses you might be interested in. So thanks, everybody. Take care. We'll see you next week. Okay, that should be good. Okay, great. Right? Oh, there's the guy. Oh, yeah. There's the guy. Okay. Well, we've got got New Year's Eve coming up. My dad taught me this song, I don't know, almost 40 years ago. What are you doing New Year's Eve? Start with that. And because we got New Year's in a few days. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. On behalf of Bentley and myself, a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, a blessed New Year to you and yours. Oh, it is a big yawn. And thanks a lot. See you next week. Happy New Year. Let's create a wonderful New Year together. And blessings to you and yours. Bye bye.